guys, today it is time for another Top 5 Wednesday. This week's topic are your top 5 books that you feel differently about. So that means either you read them originally and you really loved them, but then with time you found out that you didn't like them as much, or that they were problematic, or you just reread them and didn't enjoy them as much as the first time around, or the other way around, where you read a book originally but kind of didn't like it and then maybe later found out more things. I think that kind of is for books that you read in school. For me personally, there's kind of the feeling that I read them, I find them boring, but then when we talk about it in school, I just really found myself enjoying them a lot more. Or, you just reread it and liked it more than the first time. So I do have 3 books that I decided not to include because while I've seen problems with these books, I do find them still really enjoyable and think I would still find them enjoyable if I'd reread them now. And that is the Outlander series, Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. And all these things have obviously problems that need to be talked about, and I'm so glad there's people out there that talk about it. But for me personally, I read them such a long time ago where many of the problems were not aware to me, and I'm finding it important to learn about these things, and I do learn about them, and I appreciate it so much that people talk about it. But for me, it has been a very enjoyable experience to read all of these books, and I have kind of, for some of these, even avoided rereading them so I don't actually see these problems. I just wanted to mention it because I am aware that these books are problematic in some ways, but it's just not something that has kind of weakened my personal enjoyment. But let's get into my top 5. I do have to say that these books are mostly where I've read a sequel and then kind of realized that I didn't enjoy the other books as much, but let's just get into it. These are in no particular order because it felt kind of weird this time around. So first I have Neal Unlocked by Lynn Madsen, and this is the second book in the Neal trilogy. And when I read the third book, I realized that honestly this book is kind of unnecessary, because everything that I wanted to be solved in the third book didn't really get solved in the third book. And so I felt like the first book in itself was a good story, but this kind of brought up so many new mysteries that I thought would get solved in the third one, but they didn't. And so I honestly kind of wish that this book just didn't exist, because I would feel a lot less disappointed with this whole series if it just was one book. I didn't lower my rating for this or anything, but I definitely feel differently about this than I did before. Then we have Shadow Me by Tara Murphy, and this is actually an opposite case in which I appreciate this book a lot more since I've read the sequels. I do have to say that at one point I did lower my star ratings from an original 3.5 points to 2 points. Stars. I still think this book is weak and that Juliet is annoying and it is not great in world building, but knowing the rest of the books, I just feel like it's fine. And we know that Juliet really develops as a character, so it's kind of fun to see her being this annoying in the first book, and then kind of getting to know her more and really liking her more. I really enjoyed Juliet's change throughout the trilogy, and also just learning that this story isn't really about the world building or the dystopian setting. It is about relationships between people. So I kind of, while I still think that this book is overall really weak, I have a different feeling about it, just because I know that the aim was very different from what I had personally expected. Then we have TheDarkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken, which when I originally read it, I think I gave it 4 stars. That's hilarious. I actually didn't really enjoy the book when I first read it, but it kind of was better in the last 200 pages maybe. And so since the end was more fun than the beginning, I felt like, I don't know if you sometimes have that, but when the end is good, then you kind of give books a higher rating, and later you're thinking, well, the whole book wasn't that good. And that is kind of what I feel with TheDarkest Minds. It is definitely also the case that I've read the sequel and realized so much more how much I just am not about this writing style overall, but this book as itself definitely made me consider my rating again and lower it. I mean, I'm still really intrigued by the overall concept. I just don't think it was executed very well. Then I have Amber Smoke by Kristen Cast, which I actually already was a bit like skeptical about when I originally read it, but I thought that it had a lot of potential. I thought that there could be so many great things done with this story. And I kind of said, like, it's like City of Bones, where many people didn't enjoy the first book, but when you get more into the story, you realize how important City of Bones was as a book and to kind of build up the world. And I just didn't feel like Amber Smoke did that at all. The second book was even weaker, but reading that, I just really realized how Amber Smoke is really not a great book. And it could have been a great setup for something amazing, but it just wasn't. And I guess it's kind of the fault of the second book, but still that made me really reconsider Amber Smoke and how much I just didn't really enjoy it. I just kind of enjoyed it because I thought, wow, this could go somewhere. And finally, I have Aragon by Christopher Paolini, and this is actually a case where I reread the book and just ended up not enjoying it as much as I did the first time. I didn't hate it, but I gave it 5 stars originally, and then when I reread it, I gave it 3 stars and just thought it was very average. I don't know why, I can't explain why. I guess it was just because when I read Aragon, I was a lot younger and I just had very different expectations for fantasy as a genre and just overall didn't really have much experience with reading fantasy. It was kind of what I was looking for at that moment, but in the end I just feel like it is a really interesting story and concept, but just nothing that I enjoy a whole lot. And this was my top 5 Wednesday on the top 5 books that I feel differently about. Definitely let me know if there's anything that you feel differently about after hearing someone else's opinion maybe. Sometimes I feel like reading other people's reviews can really make you realize things that you might find problematic or just didn't enjoy or enjoyed. That's also really interesting and one of the things I love about BookTube. And yeah, definitely let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I guess I'll see you soon. Bye!